Greetings adventurers, and welcome to Lookout Marketplace. When you're playing D&D, it is important to make sure that you have a character that can function within the campaign that is being run. I'm not saying that you can't play something that isn't the norm within a setting, but expect there to be a lot of adversity that you and your team can work through together. That adversity can be really fun too, but do you know what isn't fun? Throwing out everything that your DM and party had planned and trying to play your own isekai protagonist because you decided that your character was so good it had to be played regardless of the campaign setting. If you make a character that breaks the mold completely, you don't get a fun character for your game of D&D. You get a character that isn't ever invited to a D&D game again. You'll see what I mean in a couple minutes with today's treasure. That goes by the name Player Utterly Ignores All the Character Creation Guidelines, is upset that his character isn't accepted. While this story isn't as horrific as many on this sub, I still found it to be funny and thought that I'd share it. I'm an old school GM, 34 years of DMing, running an old school game, D&D 2nd Edition, aka Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. I recently lost a player due to health issues, so I ran an ad on some local Facebook groups for our replacement player. You know, I don't normally chime in this early, but I feel like Facebook groups on this channel have a really bad track record of having the most insufferable players. I don't know what it is about it. I mean, it's worse than the Roll20 looking for group forums based on what I've seen. Just avoid him. That's the only advice I have to give. One of the guys who applied claims to have played a lot of 2nd Edition D&D, so he's confident that he'd be a perfect fit. While I don't mind teaching the system to those who have never played 2nd Edition or even D&D of any version, it never hurts to have someone who is comfortable with things. When I told him that the rest of the party were 4th level characters so he could bring in a character of the same level, he immediately offered his 1st level fighter / 3rd level cleric of Thor. I explained that we play in a homebrew world, and he'd make a character that fit in it. Pretty fair. We did a little chatting where I went over the basics, that my world is a low magic world, the idea being realistic fantasy world, magic is special, clerics are using actual divine miracles, etc. That I would send him a spreadsheet with my pantheon and summary of their powers and such, that I had a website with details for each deity and loads of info on the setting, and I would email him on a basic primer on how I dungeon master, information on the world, a quick list of what I needed from him, but please reach out with any questions at all. He agreed, so I sent him the content and told him to let me know when he had a character concept. Usually players are excited at this stage, they ask questions even though emails I send are pretty thorough, and I don't mind. That's great actually. He asked if I had stat increases. 2nd Edition doesn't do that feature, so I replied no, only racial modifiers, things like, +1 dexterity and -1 constitution for elves. He asked how different religions get different powers and spell lists. I told him to check the website for the granted powers per deity and that, yes, spell lists varied slightly depending on the given deity's sphere of influence. The healing and the health goddess doesn't grant much in the way of combat spells. Only the nature-related gods grant the full range of woodsy spells. The war gods tend to grant fewer utility spells, that sort of thing. He then demanded full spell lists for each deity. I let him know that I don't keep every single spell list for every deity. If another player has run a cleric of that deity, I can easily share the list, but if not, I go through and assign based off the tenets of the religion. That wasn't good enough for him. He insisted that he needed the complete spell list to pick a deity. I was just thinking as I was reading this that the Dungeon Master has a lot of prep work. I mean, he even has a primer that acts as a substitute for like a session 0 if someone joins later. This is an insane amount of homework he has, and a lot of it's on the website. The fact that all this stuff got rattled off and he's like, no, I need your entire pantheon with every combination of spells. That's a big ask. By now, I was growing frustrated and began to think that we were not going to be a match, and basically I told him as much. Good. That if he couldn't come up with a concept without an exact spell list, that my table might not be what he was looking for. He backed off and said that he would send me a character concept. In the meantime, I decided to check his Facebook profile. His email address says that he's a lawyer. His Facebook says that he likes to post photos of his so-called mansion. It's a nice-ish house, hardly a mansion, and car. Every pic of him is a selfie with him mean mugging the camera, usually with his special forces trucker hat on. Apparently he's ex-military and very proud of that. He had pic after pic after pic of him in the same hat looking like he was ready to eat a baby. Now I'm just imagining him with the sunglasses and the hat in his car just mean mugging the camera. Except for 2 identical posts, a couple days apart, featuring an attractive woman in a cutoff t-shirt holding a Nerf gun in each hand, and his caption about how this was the last woman to break his heart and he was posting this as a warning to all women. WTF, my dude. Yeah, wait, what's going on? That evening, he sent me his character concept for my low magic, realistic fantasy world, if you forgot. Behold, nomadic Baron Elric Savage. Oh good, he's nobility. His special skill is that he is a tattoo artist, aka magical tattoos. He nominally worships one of the gods from my world, but this character is from another world, and in his culture, their warriors travel through magical portals to other worlds for adventure, plunder, etc. Then return home after every level up to revel in their glory. Naturally, having tattoos replaces all needs for material or somatic components, as their magic is permanently inscribed on his skin. How convenient. At this point, I informed him that we were definitely not the table he was looking for. I explained that he had taken a concept from another world, using another magic system, and ignored everything about my world. I applauded his creativity, but pointed out that he clearly wasn't interested in what we were looking for and wished him luck. He argued that he was given something that I could plug into my world, since he knows nothing about my world. Mind you, one of the emails gives a high-level intro to the world, to how I do religion, to the various races and nations, etc., and he has had access to probably 300 pages of reasonably well-organized content about the setting on the website itself. Wait, let me get this straight. So the guy who said that he wanted to know the individual spell lists of every character in your pantheon completely ignored all the other content you sent over and then picked a character concept where essentially his guy is just casually worshiping your god only when he's in this world to get powers, and he's a super cool baron in another universe and he like plane shifts into it to level up, and I'm assuming get whatever magical loot he wants from that too. You know, since he's a baron, how can they not give him the +5 great sword? Yeah, this is gonna be a lot of fun. I told him that he could read the blurb on the religion he picked a nation off the map, and given me a generic enough backstory to work in any fantasy medieval setting, but he had instead chosen a dimensional traveling wizard / warrior / priest with magical tattoos. No. Tattoos. I again told him his idea was cool. I actually think it's stupid, but I try to be nice, and that it might fly well in, say, Greyhawk or the Forgotten Realms. But now, in a low magic world where, again, his spells are granted miracles from his god, I didn't even bother addressing the ability to plane shift pretty much anytime he wants. Plane shift is not available to priest under 9th level, and would have to be homebrewed to work like he wanted. I told him that in my experience, players who last and have a good time make an effort to be part of the world. They want to flesh it out through their play. I told him that some of them go on to become recurring or powerful NPCs that they and other players get to interact with. I explained that, in my experience, players who bring radical things from other games pretty clearly want to play that game instead. That's fine, but that's not the game we are playing. That doesn't make the player bad, it just makes them a bad fit. I once again stated that he just wasn't looking for what we were offering, but I wished him well. Hey man, no notes here. You're handling this perfectly, and I mean, you're a veteran of the game. You know exactly what you want, and you're articulating it, and I'm sure your party, for the people who are a good fit, are enjoying it very much. So I appreciate you pushing back, making sure expectations are very clear here. So of course, he clapped back telling me this is obviously an ego game, just about me and my ego. That he didn't pick any countries for my setting because I scream of ego and would have been offended. That he was no longer interested in playing with me, didn't want to serve my ego, and this was not fun. As much as it might have been fun to stoop to his level, I stayed on the high road. I told him that I went to great lengths to support my players and help them develop their stories. I pointed out that I've been nothing but respectful, again keeping it silent that I never ridiculed his stupid Munchkin character, but that since he was now throwing insults, he had proven that my intuition about him was correct. I wished him luck, and that was that. Tattoos, lol. Tattoos indeed, my dude. He almost sounds like a plane-shifting Viking who, you know, gets honor and glory in different realms and then comes back to celebrate, which is, you know, really cool. But the fact that he made himself a noble right off the bat, that's kind of concerning, especially when it's a low-level campaign. I mean, a level 4 character is not someone who should be having that title, and also someone who just kind of goes right out the bat asking for more and more and completely ignoring all the prep work that you have there. Honestly, my takeaway is the guy made kind of an isekai character on purpose. It seems like he really wanted to play that, you know, cleric fighter of Thor, and then when you said, hey, I have a homebrew world, it's a little different, he said, oh, no problem. Let me just make my guy like the main character, the most interesting thing in this universe that completely warps how everything's handled. I don't know why a god would give him powers in this world either if he was just like, as they put it, nominally worshipping them. So it feels like a patron contract a little bit, and I don't even know what the god would be getting out of that. Yeah, it's a super game-breaking character when, you know, you're playing you're a level 4 rogue, you're having fun, and then this Viking guy from the multiverse comes through and says, yeah, one of your deities just kind of loans me stuff because I'm that cool and powerful. Also, I'm like a king in my realm. And you're just sitting there like, hey, you know, I need to be healed after this fight. We're going deeper in the dungeon. Can you just do that instead of telling me about this weird otherworldly presence you are? Very disruptive character, to say the least. I thought that the fact he was a lawyer was going to come into it, where he was going to be a bit of a rules lawyer. And since you never invited him into the game, I guess we'll never know. One of the reasons I picked this story actually is because he handles the screening process for new players online really well. Just always make sure to reach out through your network first before going on places like Facebook groups to find people, because you're going to have a lot better luck, in my personal opinion, getting someone into the game who is kind of half interested, that's a friend of a friend, as opposed to a Facebook group where a lot of times people reaching out, you know, they might already have a character in mind that they want to play, and they're going to force it down your throat no matter what you say, like this guy clearly is trying to do. Thanks for stopping by. If you want to subscribe to the channel or become a member, I'd really appreciate it. Really ramping up production here on our end, and I feel like things are starting to flow in a really cool way, so I hope to see you in the next video. Farewell for now.